What were we doing before enslavement? This is a question that Black people often ask. Being enslaved and stripped of your identity is a traumatic process. Many Black people in America seek a connection to Africa for spiritual or cultural purposes, and often out of pure curiosity. There is a whole industry based on genetics and tracing one's ancestry. Many African Americans have used that to establish some sense of knowledge about the past that has been erased from us. Most of us cannot trace our lineage back to Africa, and our abilities to know who our ancestors were usually stops on the plantation. We know, however, we come from somewhere in Africa. That is clear as day, and not all of the history has been erased. Our cultures were taken from us through pure violence and degradation, but despite this, many enslaved Africans retained portions of their previous cultures, even while being forcibly assimilated. Despite colonization destroying many cultural aspects in Africa, many people still speak their indigenous languages and have many practices that predate European colonialism. To answer the question, first, we have to define we. As African Americans, we have created a sort of self-identity based on the common experience of oppression in this country, as well as unique cultural traits we have developed under slavery and post-slavery. Black people in America are diverse and not only includes those of us who are descended from the plantation, but also immigrants who have come in later periods, as well as the descendants of free Black people. This question will mainly focus on the descendants of those who were enslaved in the cotton and tobacco plantations in the South, and those who are descendant of free Blacks in America. Most enslaved Africans in the United States were taken from Western and Central Africa. The locations they came from are known today as Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Gabon. Other regions include modern-day Ghana, Ivory Coast, southern Nigeria, and Cameroon. It is often said, we came from kings and queens, signifying royalty. African kingdoms and empires had kings and queens, but most people, logically, were not royalty. Enslaved Africans were taken from various communities in Africa. Different societies had different rules and social structures. Some societies were communal and lived off of foraging. Other societies had developed hierarchies. So enslaved Africans were taken from various communities in Africa. They belonged to different tribes, empires, and kingdoms. Kings and queens are rulers of society. So surely there were more than just kings and queens. People traded, farmed, were warriors, ironsmiths, etc., etc. Slavery existed in Africa in different forms, and we'll get into that another time. But before being taken from their homelands and held in captivity, African peoples had families, they had relationships to higher political structures, and oftentimes they had relationships with various confederacies and empires. They had their own livelihood, skills, and were employed in various industries. Before European colonization, there are many African civilizations, kingdoms, empires, etc., etc. Some of them included the Ouagadougou, also known as ancient Ghana, the Malian Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Kingdom of Benin, the Kingdom of Congo, and the Oyo Kingdom, just to name a few. Our ancestors came from different kingdoms, lands, and families with a variety of cultures and practices. There is no singular African culture, although it has been suggested there are common roots in many African cultures across the continent. Before the transatlantic slave trade, the victims of the trade and their ancestors were doing a variety of things. They created complex societies, they created complex civilizations, they traded with their neighbors, they traded all the way to Asia, to Europe. Most people practiced local religions and spiritual beliefs, and there was a significant amount of Muslims in certain parts of West Africa by the beginning of the Ma'afa. The story of pre-enslavement is much more complex than what we can cover in one video, so I will end it here.